Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into a new campaign, and it's from a familiar player in the cyber threat landscape. They're called Star Blizzard. You might know them as Seaboard Jim, their former name, or,
Mm.
well, one of their many aliases. Actually, this group has been active since at least 2012, and their persistence is, almost as impressive as their ability to kind of fly under the radar.
It really is remarkable. Even after Microsoft and the DOJ went and seized over 180 of their domains last year, they've managed to come back and adapt with new tactics. Honestly, I gotta hand it to them. They are clever.
Clever, yeah,
Yeah.
but also concerning, especially for those of you out there in government or diplomacy or those in defense policy research or anyone involved in aiding Ukraine, because that's exactly who Star Blizzard is targeting in this new campaign. See, they used to rely pretty heavily on spear phishing emails,
Yeah.
the kind with malicious links, but now they're kind of shifting gears and they're focusing on something else, compromising WhatsApp accounts.
And that's what makes this so interesting. By moving over to WhatsApp, they're tapping into a platform that a lot of organizations haven't focused on securing as tightly as they have email. It's also a platform where people are just more relaxed and less suspicious by nature. And that plays right into Star Blizzard's hands.
So let's get into the specifics of how this attack actually works. Okay, so it all starts with an email that looks totally legitimate. It appears to be from a U.S. government official, and it invites the target to join a WhatsApp group. The group is focused on supporting Ukrainian NGOs. Pretty compelling lure, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're using social engineering to exploit our good nature, our desire to help, and also our inherent trust in authority figures. But here's where it gets interesting. The QR code that they include in that initial email is actually broken on purpose.
Now you might be thinking, well, why would they do that? Well, it's all part of the plan. By sending a broken QR code, they're prompting the target to respond, and that gives Star Blizzard the opening that they need.
Yeah, it's classic. They're trying to lower the target's guard, make them feel like they're in control, like they've spotted an error and they're being helpful. But in reality, they're playing right into the attacker's hands.
And once the target takes the bait and replies to that email, Star Blizzard, they come back with a second email. They apologize for the technical glitch, and they provide a fixed link to join the WhatsApp group.
Of course, except this link is anything but fixed. Instead of taking them to the group, it actually redirects the target to a page where they're prompted to scan a new QR code.
And this is where the real danger is. This QR code grants the attacker access to the target's WhatsApp account.
Yeah.
It exploits the functionality of WhatsApp Web, which,
Mhm.
allows users to access their accounts on their computer
Yeah.
by scanning a QR code.
And because WhatsApp Web is, designed to be seamless and user-friendly, people are conditioned to just scan these codes without giving it much thought. Star Blizzard is basically weaponizing this convenience against us.
This QR code aspect is very intriguing. Could you walk us through the technical details of how it works? For those of our listeners who are cybersecurity professionals and might be interested in the nuts and bolts of how this attack actually happens.
Sure. So when you scan a QR code to log into WhatsApp Web, what you're actually doing is authorizing a specific device or browser to access your account. The QR code itself contains a unique token, and this token is what links your phone, where your WhatsApp account is primarily stored to that other device.
So in this case, when the target scans that malicious QR code provided by Star Blizzard, they're essentially giving the attackers that same level of access to their account.
Exactly. And from there, the attackers, they can basically do anything the target could do on their own WhatsApp account. Read messages, send messages, access contact lists, even eavesdrop on calls if the target uses WhatsApp for, voice or video communication.
That's unsettling, especially when you think about the kind of sensitive information these targets probably have access to. So now let's talk about the potential impact. What are Star Blizzard's goals here?
Well, it's probably a mix of intelligence gathering and disruption. By getting access to the WhatsApp accounts of government officials, diplomats, defense policy researchers, they can steal sensitive information, they can monitor communications, and they can gain insights into strategic decision-making processes.
And that kind of information is incredibly valuable, especially in today's world.
Absolutely. And beyond intelligence gathering, they can also use these compromised accounts to spread disinformation, disrupt operations, and even, sow discord among allies by impersonating those compromised individuals. The possibilities for manipulation and damage are really significant.
So we've talked about how the attack works and the potential impact. Now let's shift gears and talk about what can be done to defend against it. What can cybersecurity professionals do to protect themselves and their organizations?
Well, first and foremost, awareness is key. We need to educate users about this specific tactic, share real-world examples of these phishing emails, and highlight just how dangerous scanning unknown QR codes can be. A lot of people still associate QR codes with, pretty harmless things like joining a Wi-Fi network or looking at a menu at a restaurant. So it's really crucial to emphasize that they can be used for malicious purposes too.
So we need to change people's perceptions and instill a healthy dose of skepticism when it comes to QR codes. Train ourselves and our users to be more discerning.
Exactly. And beyond awareness, we also need to strengthen our technical defenses. Enabling two-factor authentication on WhatsApp, that's a critical step because it adds that extra layer of security. It makes it a lot harder for attackers to gain unauthorized access, even if they do manage to trick someone into scanning a malicious QR code.
Yeah, two-factor authentication is a must-have these days. And it's not just about protecting individual accounts, it's about safeguarding sensitive organizational data as well.
Absolutely. Organizations should also be implementing robust email security solutions, ones that can detect and block phishing attempts. You want solutions that use AI and machine learning to identify suspicious patterns, sender reputations, and malicious links.
So we can't just rely on that traditional signature-based detection anymore. We need more advanced tools that can adapt to these ever-evolving tactics that attackers like Star Blizzard are using.
Exactly. And just as important as blocking these attacks at the perimeter is having strong incident response procedures in place. If a user does fall victim to this attack, you need to be able to quickly identify the compromise, contain the damage, and recover that affected account.
That's a great point. Incident response often gets overlooked, but it's essential for minimizing the impact of any attack, especially one as sophisticated as this.
And maybe most importantly, we need to foster a culture of cybersecurity awareness within our organizations. We need to encourage users to report suspicious emails, question unexpected requests, and verify information before taking any action that could compromise their accounts or expose sensitive data.
So it's about creating like a human firewall,
Yeah.
right? We can have all the technology in the world, but if our users aren't aware of the threats and how to, avoid them, then we're still vulnerable.
Absolutely. It's time to move beyond that old check the box security awareness training. You know what I mean? Instead of just having people sit through those boring presentations once a year, we need to actually engage them with interactive simulations, real world examples, and ongoing communication, keeping cybersecurity top of mind.
And it sounds like tailoring that training to specific roles and responsibilities is important too. I mean, someone in government or diplomacy, they probably face different types of threats,
Yeah.
and they need different levels of awareness than someone in, say, finance or marketing.
That's a really good point. We need to make sure the training is relevant to each person's job and the types of information they're dealing with.
So it's about understanding the human element, the psychology behind these attacks, and building defenses that account for both, our strengths and our weaknesses.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the threat landscape is always changing. What works today might not work tomorrow. That's why it's so important to stay informed about those new threats. Share knowledge with the cybersecurity community and constantly adapt our defenses to stay one step ahead.
All right, so before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've seen how Star Blizzard has shifted their tactics, from email to WhatsApp.
Hmm.
What other platforms could they target next? What vulnerabilities should we be keeping an eye out for?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's one we should all be asking ourselves all the time. As security professionals, we need to be thinking like the attackers, anticipating that next move. Could it be Telegram or Signal or even some new platform that's, not even on our radar yet?
It's a challenge, but it's also what makes this field so interesting.
It definitely keeps us on our toes, but that's the nature of cybersecurity, isn't it? It's a never-ending game of cat and mouse, and we need to be prepared to adapt and evolve right along with the threats that we face.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look at Star Blizzard's tactics and that ever-changing threat landscape. We've covered a lot today, from the technical details of this WhatsApp attack to the importance of understanding the psychology behind it and building those proactive defenses.
We've also talked about how crucial it is to educate users, plan for incident response, and really cultivate a culture of cybersecurity awareness within our organizations.
And most importantly, we want you, our listeners, to stay vigilant. Think critically about those emerging threats and be proactive about strengthening your own defenses.
Because when it comes down to it, knowledge is power, and by working together, sharing information, and constantly learning, we can make it a lot harder for attackers like Star Blizzard to achieve their goals.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Everybody,
Yeah.
stay safe out there.